Hello, welcome to another episode of Cotton. And today my guest is Dhiren Sadokam. He is the editor-in-chief of Frontier Manipur. So, Dhiren, I welcome you to this show. And I must tell my audience that the other day, Dhiren wrote a very interesting, very perceptive piece on recent on the recent visit of our Prime Minister to Manipur. It came out in the Federal, I think, which is published from Sendai. So I have been actually waiting to interview someone for quite some time in the recent developments in Manipur. And when Rashmi Goswami, she is also a friend of yours. So when she forwarded this article to me, I was very delighted, and immediately my reaction was that if I could get hold of you and can have a chat on the developments in the Manipur. So I'm very happy that you could spare time for this interaction. Now, first thing I would like to know from you, uh, how would you see the recent visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Manipur?
First of all, thank you, Parishda, for having me in your show, in your show, and of course for allowing me to share some of my some of my some of my views. Uh, there had been, as mentioned by you, there had been uh, many reactions to the Prime Minister's visit to Manipur. But having said this, I want to re-emphasize the fact that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the northeast, to be precise, I wouldn't call it Manipur because the way he reached Manipur, it was announced very late, and it was not a kind of a only Manipur visit. First, he visited Mizoram, then there was a pit stop at two places in Manipur, that is Surjanpur and Imphal, that is on the September 13th. Then later on, he flew to Guwahati in Assam and all that kind of thing. So for me, I think this is part of a kind of a tour package for the Prime Minister, and Manipur just happened to be there, along the way. So first of all, one thing which I feel a little unfortunate is he has not made Manipur as a specific visit to address the kind of a burning issue that the state has been facing for a while. And more on top of that, the spectacle or the kind of optics of the visit also says a different, tells a different story. For instance, the announcement of, or inauguration of laying foundation stones of developmental projects valued at over 8,500 crores rupees, both in
Yeah,
Imphal and Shashanpur.
I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
specifically
So
coming
all
to
this kind
that.
of thing, I mean, it's more I mean, the entire visit has been primarily devoted to what I call, a kind of a optics, a kind of a spectacle, which want to overshadow, the kind of a the real issue, the core issue that Manipur is facing as of now, not at the level of developmental projects or at the level of or enhancing the kind of infrastructural deficit that Manipur has.
I'm very happy. Actually, you have underlined a very important thing, saying that the Manipur has been burning. Manipur is in troubles for more than 2 years. It started. And when the Prime Minister came here, so it was not an exclusive visit to the Manipur. His trip to Manipur was actually planned in a manner that he also visited two other states. And many people have also expressed their, you see, they're saying that he spent maybe uh, five 5 to 6 hours in Manipur. So this is really a serious, you have started it in a very serious note. Now, first thing, okay, he came to visit this place, visit Manipur after more than 2 years. And when there was, everywhere there was actually call, there was a, you see, urgent call for the Prime Minister to visit Manipur. But then it took more than 2 years. And why do you think? Why did it happen? Why the Prime Minister of the Prime Minister of our country, he took more than 2 years to visit a state which was actually virtually undergoing a very abnormal situation?
Parishda, I think you have put it in the right perspective. As I had mentioned before, the Prime Minister's visit is not Manipur only, it was also Mizoram, Manipur, Assam, and elsewhere. Having said this, as you have emphasized, why does the PM take so long to visit a state like Manipur, which is part of India? You know, if you literally look into the kind of thing, and since Manipur is part of India, I think it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to also address head on the kind of core issues that Manipur is witnessing today, and not necessarily only Manipur. It could be Assam, it could be Meghalaya, it could be Mizoram, or anywhere in the northeast, any of the northern states, including Sikkim. So I think why he's taking so long time is no longer a question that needs to be asked anymore. It's not so much about what we normally understand as political ambivalence. It's not beyond ambivalence. Okay, I have at one state I have always said that Prime Minister forget about his visit. He has not even turned towards Manipur. But even today, I mean, in a few days back on September 13th, if the Prime Minister had landed up in Imphal and in Churchandpur, it's not so much about addressing, as I said, addressing head on the kind of a core issues that Manipur faced since May 3rd, 2023. Of course, the state, particularly Manipur and Assam and also Meghalaya, and most of the northern states have ethnic fault lines everywhere, even in Assam, even in um, Mizoram, in Nagaland, anywhere, okay, or intertribal kind of a thing, or intercommunity kind of a
Conflicts.
fault lines are always there. Yeah, fault lines are always there. So, you know, after Manipur, I mean, that has the kind of a conflict that has seen that Manipur saw. It is, we have lost more than 2,200 lives and displaced more than 60,000 people as on record now. But you know, if you literally look at the what the two speeches that the Prime Minister delivered at Churchandpur and in Imphal, I mean, it is, you know, he has never ever mentioned what do you call the idea of the core issues. Though it's not that he did emphasize on peace and stability, okay, as kind of a very general kind of a comment. And peace and stability could be even for Assam, because Assam also has seen what you call instability despite double engine government. And if you see the kind of a massive rally that has been taken out just before PM's arrival to in Assam and all the everywhere. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is, I think there are certain core issues that every state, particularly in the northeastern region, faces, and the Prime Minister should be. I mean, I think he should have enough wisdom to address certain issues that actually troubles the state. And when you bypass that in all, you know, and overshadow the kind of issues with kind of announcements of some package, economic package, or laying foundation stones, or announcements of development projects. I mean, you know, it doesn't go down well with the people. That is what my assessment is, uh, Pareshda. And also, if you see it, as I said, there are so many people who have not been able to return to their homes. So, I mean, the internally displaced persons, IDPs, and you know, and in the absence of any what you call commentary on humanitarian conditions, particularly in no, but please remember. When I talk about optics, he did visit a few children, both in Sushanpur as well as in Imphal, did interact with them, but nobody knows what are the kind of messages that he conveyed there. Because if you see the state state channel that there is, or the kind of official the video that had been released. I think they had been all muted. Okay, I don't know for whatever reason. So what I'm trying to see, what I sense is, Manipur is again now, it's no longer the state government, it's president's rule since February 2025. So, but the absence of any comments on humanitarian condition, forget a while, even the conflict, the causes of the conflict, or the core causes of the conflict and all that. But we know that there is a humanitarian crisis has been going on, with thousands of people still languishing in what you call rehabilitation camps and relief camps and all that kind of thing. So it looks as if Prime Minister's recent visit to Manipur has been all state managed, with kind of optics that would benefit the state, benefit the New Delhi, or benefit rather the BJP in terms of electoral politics, not necessarily about addressing what I call the core issues of any states in the Northeast as of now.
Now, this you have made certain very important points here, important comments. See, first thing you said that okay, he didn't in his visit to Manipur, he didn't actually address the core issues. The core issues. What are the core issues? The core issues, or if I have to say, the core issue is the conflict, isn't it? The strife. Now,
Exactly.
If a patient is suffering from some particular disease, and if you do not diagnose that disease properly, if you do not address the disease, if you do not address the cause, then it's all, I do not know, it would be all superficial things, isn't it? Now, and you have also said that okay, he visited some relief camp, but we do not know what was discussed.
Not relief camps. I think met some children who were staying in relief camps, and I am not sure that was in relief camp itself, or these children were brought to some places so that they could have an interaction with the Prime Minister, which is a good gesture. I am not denying. I'm not denying the kind of a gesture, but what we in fact expected from the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, to be honest, is that he would, as you have rightly mentioned, also as we have absolutely
two things
bang on target mentioned about the core issues. But Parishda, beyond this, there is also certain issues that
I wanted to tell one thing. One thing is that first thing, when you have come after so many, you see, after a long time, after 2 years, first thing, what is the motive? What is the intention? The objective. Why people wanted the Prime Minister of India to come to Manipur? Because he wanted all of us wanted him to come to Manipur so that this problem, the conflict, the strife, actually it can be resolved. That was the main thing. You see, it is not that okay, everybody is telling him to come, because he is the Prime Minister of the country. He can take a decision on the spot. He can take a decision. So that is why people wanted him to come, wanted him to visit and come to Manipur and fill the situation. So what you say that okay, it was all in a way, it was all stays menace, and whatever was done, maybe it looks like all was done aiming at the optics. But the core issue, the conflict, number one is the conflict, and number two is the humanitarian situation, what it has caused to the people, that normalcy is not yet restored. Thousands and thousands of people are still in relief camp. They have not been able to go to their homes. They have not been able to, involved in their normal activities. They are not able to start their normal activities. Now, when the Prime Minister of the country, he comes and visit a travel town area, normally we expect that, okay, what do we see? We see that there is a problem, there is a conflict, and we see that there is a humanitarian crisis. So we want him to address to these two things, basically these two things. So the developmental project and other things will come later. But you feel what is the general, what you feel you have written in your piece. Now, what is the general feeling among the people?
I think now, after the Prime Minister's visit, before that there was expectations, of course. After the Prime Minister's visit, and if you see the kind of popular reactions, maybe in social media and even in formal so-called traditional media like print and electronic outlets, media outlets here, I think people are not at all satisfied with this visit because I think on one hand, Prime Minister was trying to place what I call the development card, trying to so that it can camouflage kind of a conflict. But Parishda, having said this, you also referred to the kind of a conflict. See, we have always said there has been always a conflict. I mean, Northeast as a whole, forget only Manipur, Northeast as a whole has been identified as a kind of conflict prone and conflict zone kind of a region. So, for that, one needs to understand also few templates, easy templates to understand this kind of a conflict. So, at one point of time, if you really recall, even in Assam or in Manipur, what I normally call a kind of a vertical conflict. Vertical conflict is, say, for instance, Alpha in Assam or maybe UNLF in Manipur fighting straight New Delhi. Okay, there was nothing not about fighting within the kind of groups within the state. So that is kind of a vertical conflict. Vertical conflict means all the groups having grudges with New Delhi, having problems with New Delhi's policies, or even setting the agenda of restoring sovereignty or demanding sovereignty or independence, whatever you call it. But over a period of time, I think Pareshda, if you even look at in Assam or even Manipur, whatever we understood as conflict in the 70s, since the 60s till about in the early 90s, I mean, they have been all converted into what I call horizontal conflict. Okay, it's no longer vertical conflict that our groups or communities are fighting against New Delhi. It's all about communities, ethnic communities. It could
You
be
have
in Assam, it could be
yeah,
between
you have
one
very
group to another.
nicely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's you
so
have very
the entire,
nicely
see, so in one form, what I normally understand as the kind of a vertical conflict has now been totally converted into horizontal conflict. That is
horizontal.
between communities in Assam, between communities in Manipur, between intertribal feuds in Mizoram, intertribal feuds in Nagaland, everywhere. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, I think for some reason, I is my personal kind of a understanding that by converting all this so-called earlier the vertical conflict into horizontal conflict, and the New Delhi must have thought that they have succeeded in kind of silencing the voices of what I call, those people who have been, what we normally understand as the rebel groups or the insurgent groups and all that. But having done that, on that account, I think we have not seen any kind of a thing. For instance, there is also a talk kind of a thing going on even in Assam or maybe in elsewhere, and even in Manipur, there are so many ceasefire groups have been there under a sue or cessation of hostilities and all that kind of thing. So what I'm trying to say is, on one hand, there seems to be some kind of a peace, dawning in because the vertical conflict has been overshadowed by horizontal conflict. But they have not. I think New Delhi has is still to realize that the more you have horizontal conflict, the bigger the problem. Even Assam or Manipur, the entire Northeast is going to have a bigger problem than whatever problem that New Delhi or political watchers, political analysts in Northeast have always thought, it's all about Alpha, all about NSNIM, all about, kind of a Naga insurgency movement, Assam insurgency, or Manipur insurgency. So the whole item insurgency is totally gone. In one way, it could be a positive or it could be negative, depending on how one assesses the situation. But what I'm really scared of is the intensity of or the kind of a intensity of the kind of a conflict between communities, ethnic communities in the northeast, be it Assam or be it Meghalaya or be it in Manipur, has doubled, kind of has really intensified. There is one very scary thing about what I call, conflict. Okay, beyond conflict, since we are talking about the PM's visit, and I also
No, no,
feel
no.
that
I just want to. You see, you have very nicely theorized this thing. You have said the vertical conflict and the horizontal conflict. So the state is thinking, Delhi is thinking that okay, they have converted the vertical conflict. That means people, you see, anger against the state. They think that okay, they have converted into, you see, horizontal conflicts.
Yeah, anger between the communities.
Between the communities. They have whatever the earlier.
Hmm.
So the communities in some form or other, they were fighting against the state, against the central government. Now they have, and they have done it, I'm telling you. And now they are thinking that they are converting it to a horizontal, you see, conflict, getting all the communities involved
Exactly.
among themselves. But do you think there are two aspects to it? Do you think that this is a way to look for, you see, peace and harmony? Peace and harmony, because regional peace and harmony, because unless there is peace and harmony, understanding among the communities in a state, see, the long term peace is not going to be there, and peace will
Absolutely
not never
correct. Absolutely correct.
under no circumstances the peace will be sustainable. And the two things, what this is actually harming two things. This is actually jeopardizing two things. India, the concept of India, we are not against the concept of India, and not even
Exactly.
against the concept of the state of India. But what is happening now with this? They are actually building a mistrust among the people against New Delhi, and in the process, they are also jeopardizing the harmony and understanding among the people. So it is affecting the people, as well as it is also not helping in any way the government. It is a very temporary thing. As Mr. Prime Minister, he thinks that okay, by stage managing everything, he would be able to he will be able to solve the problem in Manipur. It's no way it's going to help, isn't it?
Exactly. Absolutely. No, but see, Parishda, I think you are absolutely correct on that kind of assessment. What I'm trying to emphasize is, I mean, so that's why if you don't address this issue about, you have called it anger, okay? What I have said about the vertical conflict and the horizontal conflict. Okay, let us assume for a while that there is anger between two communities or two or more communities in one state. So it is the duty, or rather the responsibility of the government of India, which of course headed by the Prime Minister, to actually look into all these issues first, to actually bring peace, because there cannot be peace without, yeah, address the issues head on. So these are what I consider as the primary, or the kind of a core issues. But if on one hand you want to have peace, and you think peace can be achieved only through announcements of projects, announcements of what they call infrastructural projects, and all kinds of what they call economic packages, I mean, that is not going to help, because until unless there are ways and means to address this issue, I think it's going to be just kind of a debate between what you call normalcy narrative and ground realities. Okay, so I think the state, as in the New Delhi, also wants to, I think, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, also wants to push for the idea of the narrative of normalcy already returning in Manipur. But how can you call it normalcy? When, okay, there are no killings happening as of now, but when thousands of people are still not able to return to their homes, when one community cannot go to other communities' territories, or other communities' dominant areas by other community, even when communities cannot travel to each other's places, and how can you call it kind of a narrative of normalcy? Okay, so that's why I think there is a necessity, there is a kind of a, it is imperative on the part of the government, on the part of the prime ministers, or the government of India, to actually unravel all these issues bit by bit. And I mean, it may take time, but has to be always a beginning, a point of departure from where one has to start to actually engaging with all the groups. I think they have already started. I'm not saying it hasn't been started. There are so many um, tracks that has been going on, official as well as non-official tracks, to actually bring back normalcy to Manipur. But normalcy cannot be called normalcy unless these thousands of people are unable to return home, and unless you directly address the issue that one is facing at home. Okay, those are I think major issues that the prime minister actually needs to address, and addressing this also would what do you call, give a sense of accountability to the central government, and the central government's role in managing the crisis that Manipur has witnessed over since 2023. So for those thousands of people who are staying in relief camps, these announcements of infrastructural projects, it doesn't come as a solace, because it's not directly addressed what
how
the
does it
anxiety
actually,
within them. Okay,
yeah,
so I
how
think
does
these
it
are,
help? How does it
it doesn't
help?
help. That is, Paris, that is why I'm saying it
Eight
doesn't
eight
help.
thousand 8,500 infrastructure project. How
Mhm.
does it help in actually assessing the hard feelings, the feeling of loss, the when they have lost their near ones, when they have not been able to go back to their home? So how does this help? And here I want you to tell me that this kind of approach, that you ignore what is happening at the ground level, and you take an approach that, okay, if we sanction huge infrastructure project, then peace will automatically come. How do what is this? How do you feel about it?
Uh, Parishda, as I had mentioned, because currently, if you take as I said, the necessity of addressing the issue is not about sanctioning projects and all that. It's also about, as you had mentioned, rightly mentioned, that people whose dear ones, family members had been killed in the conflict, if they, and and the kind of a anger that they still nurture, or the kind of a or they're still mourning about the killing of their near and dear ones, and also the kind of a harm, I mean, the kind of emotional kind of a trauma that these people have undergone. If you don't address them directly, I think most of these victims, including all of us victims in a sense, irrespective of whether you have been displaced or not, all of us are in one form or the other, all of us are victims. So because violence has already happened, and that's why I think there is a necessity of actually addressing all these issues head on. Until unless one does that with a sense of priority, as well as with a sense of honesty and transparency, I think nothing is going to move forward. If it moves forward, then it will be only opposed by all the groups. For instance, we don't want, again, to convert back the horizontal conflict back to vertical conflict. In a sense, if you see the trends, because the prime minister's visit had not been, I mean, if you look at the intellectuals of the hill communities, including the Nagas as well as the Kuki-Zo communities and the Meiteis, and and the kind of expressions that they have it through social media or through even mainstream media. I mean, none of them seems to be happy. Even the Kuki-Zo groups are not happy. The Meiteis are not happy. Even the Nagas are not happy, because for some reason, what they consider is prime what do you call issues, or so core issues within their own communities, that have not been addressed at all. So that is one aspect which I think really worries me, because there is not going to bring the kind of a peace we think it should be. But of course, time is a healing uh, medicine, in a sense. Eventually, or one may forget one's trauma and all that over a period of time. But the scar still remains, the scar still remains. So even if the state or the New Delhi or Prime Minister doesn't do anything, I mean, people will have their own way of resolving issues within the communities. But it is the responsibility is with the government, because at the end of the day, they are a state, they're the government. So that's why I think the responsibility is with them to actually address, bring a comprehensive political solution, bring justice, and also secure the return of all those who have left their homes and property in Manipur. I think these are primary issues which the Prime Minister should have addressed directly, okay, without resorting to all this normalcy narrative versus ground realities kind of a what you call optics or spectacle.
Now, the thing is that the other day I saw an interview with a cookie person. Actually, he is a BJP MLA. Even
Exactly.
he was saying they sought some time from the prime minister, maybe for 10 minutes and so. So they were not given times. They're their own people, own party. Now, if from whatever I have heard from you, if I can, maybe I can conclude, that means no one, neither the Meitei group, nor the Cookie group, nor any other groups. So no groups, nobody was happy with the visit of the Prime Minister. Is it so?
That is the picture that I see of Parishna, because otherwise there is no other explanation. As you have rightly pointed out, this is the BJP MLA from the Cookies community who said Prime Minister's visit is a wastage of resources and
Yeah,
time.
wasted. He said that it is
As
wasted
it's
of
clear as that,
resources,
sir.
and you are
Resources and
saying that
time.
it's
So what I'm
quite.
trying to say is both the groups in conflict,
So
particularly in
that
the
means,
horizontal
see,
conflict that I'm
now
talking of.
one thing we can say, the entire country, the opposition in the parliament, everybody was saying that the prime minister should visit Manipur, and he should visit Manipur so that he could do something to bring peace to the people, to the conflicting groups. Now, after 2 long years, he visited Manipur, but then he didn't address the core issue. He didn't do anything to assess the feelings of the people, and all the peoples involved, all the stakeholders, they are not at all happy with this. So now this we have, I think we have discussed enough about the futile, in a way, futile visit of the prime minister. But now we have to live in our own place, and we have to resolve our issues. If the people who are entrusted with the responsibility of resolving the issues, if they do not do that, if they fail in their duties, we cannot fail ourselves in our duties, our responsibilities to ourselves. So that is why, what do you think? What do you think that how this situation is going to, you see, emerge? Whether how is it going to resolve? How is it going to resolve? So what is the way ahead? What is the way forward? That's my
See,
last question.
yeah, but Parisda, I can understand that. But having said that, we have already mentioned time and again that it is the responsibility of the state. When I say state, means the Indian state to actually get itself involved head on, directly address the issue. That is exactly why we have put the blame, the onus, the responsibility to the Prime Minister is that if they don't initiate, okay, I'm not saying they are not initiating, they have initiated, as you say, in the formal tracks, and there are also informal tracks going on. But what I'm trying to say is if you really look at the kind of the conflict, how it has been managed, okay, it's not about conflict transformation or conflict resolution. This is about conflict management by New Delhi. How it's been managed is very tricky. Tricky in a sense. See, if New Delhi wishes that there should be fight within community, they can, let them fight. And they want to stop, they can stop it immediately. If they don't want to stop, they can again loosen certain kind of thing. So it all depends on how, for instance, New Delhi actually sees the issues in the northeast. Okay, so even for Assam, for that matters. Also, if they want to, if they don't want to control some kind of a violence that is happening in Assam, they can just let it go like that. So that way, it goes. It prolongs the issue unless is the case. That is why if we have so much of expectation to the Prime Minister of India, is primarily because they can stop. They can not only stop, also they can initiate. Okay, people can initiate on their own. We can have our own way forward kind of a approach, but this way forward approach has to be supported by a responsible state machinery. And when I say responsible state machinery, I'm directly referring to New Delhi. If they had been so serious, and I think they can do it, because and in the initial phase, despite pumping in more than 60,000 troops, including Manipur State Police, that again added another 70,000, around 70,000 security forces in Mani, it couldn't stop the violence. And for some reason, when people have started pulling out, it started gradually, okay, the levels of violence have, or degree, or the kind of a quantum of violence had reduced, you know, on its own, without much of a help even from New Delhi. So that way, I think people will find a way, definitely, because at the end of the day, they understand, as you said, you can't change your neighbors, you can't change your people. I mean, in your family, you cannot say that you are not a member of my family. Even in our, if you speak in both in analogical terms and metaphorical terms, your own family members, you can't say they're not my family. So there will be a way out, but somebody who's responsible, okay, to keep the family intact, to keep the family in harmony, and somebody has to take a kind of a more than required role, more than even than we expect. So what I'm trying to say is there should be kind of a very honest and transparent approach, okay, and also kind of a not anchoring, or not what do you call, hinging on the politics of kind of a electoral politics, or not thinking about party politics, political party politics. At the end of the day, I think people are people, and at the end of the day, people will find a solution on their own. There is absolutely, because all
Can
this.
I yeah, can I here say one thing? Actually, the conflict, the troubles in Manipur started to an extent abated by the administration, or because of the indifference of the administration, government, and even after two and a half years, so the state has not, state means here I call state means the central government, they have not changed their approach towards resolving it. First they allowed it to happen, or maybe they actually abated it, and then what has happened in last 2 years, more than 2 years, even now they're not doing anything to actually, in a way, resolve it. This is most unfortunate, isn't it?
Exactly. The most unfortunate part is what we have just said, Parishda.
So as you said, we'll have to live. They cannot. You cannot change your neighbors.
You can change
So
your family too.
yeah, yeah. So that is why. But then it is. We are actually ending this conversation in a very sad note, because sad note in the sense, because you see that means what, if the people, they have to resolve it, then why we need a state, why we need a state, if
That's a big question. Parishda, there is a big question that everyone
that's,
is
isn't it,
asking.
yeah,
Because at the
why
end of the day,
we,
you and I are citizens. Forget about our ethnic affinities, or communal affinities, or religious affinities. At the end of the day, you and I are citizens. So when citizens suffer, it is role of the state, as you have rightly mentioned, to intervene head on and address the issue so that this kind of issues do not crop up anymore. But the dynamics of conflict, as I mentioned earlier, we have to understand different dynamics of conflict. And if the state keeps on thinking that one form of conflict is going to end another form of conflict, I mean, that's even more dangerous. It's dangerous in the long run.
This actually, I think we have discussed this issue quite thoroughly, but then this shows the nature of present dispensation. Their way of handling Manipur also shows the nature, the character of this dispensation. It comes out, isn't it?
Very visible.
So thank you very much for sparing time, and it was quite enlightening actually discussion, particularly one point you said that okay, how they converted the vertical conflict in the region, not only in Manipur, in the almost the entire northeast, how they succeeded in converting the vertical conflict into horizontal conflict. But you and your and mine, you see, conclusion is that they are not actually, they have converted the conflict, but they have not resolved it. Rather, they have intensified it, which is neither good for New Delhi nor good for us. Isn't it?
Exactly my point is.
Yeah. So thank you very much. We'll definitely, because I like to hear such same voices. So would like to come back to you. Now we have identified a person in Manipur who can help us understand the situation there in Manipur, and not only in Manipur, it seems also the neighboring states. So I'm really grateful to you for sparing time, and I'm sure our viewers will enjoy this discussion, this interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Varita. Thank you so much.